Did you ever take on a coaching client and then regretted it? I have. On some level, I knew they were probably not a good fit, but I accepted to work with them anyway. I shouldn't have. The headaches and stress these clients cost me were not worth the money they paid me. In this video, I will share with you the most common signs of a potentially bad client so that you can avoid them. Hello and welcome to the Savvy Corner. If you're new here, my name is Alisa and I help people manage their money, their business, and their mind around it. When you're new in business, you are tempted to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. I get it. You want to learn and practice your skills and, of course, make money. How can you say no to someone who is willing to become a paying client? But sometimes the money you make is not worth the hassle and stress of dealing with a difficult client. Your mental health and well-being are more important, and it is your responsibility to guard them. I have put together a list of red flags that might indicate a bad client. I'm not saying you should immediately say no to anyone who matches the description, but you will at least be able to use this list as a guide for helping you make the decision of whether to work with someone or not. Let's jump straight in. The first red flag is that they don't understand what a coach does, and their expectations reflect that. They either expect you to do the work for them, or they think you'll share some magic formula that will help them solve their problems. In a way, this lack of understanding is not entirely their fault. Given that coaching is an unregulated industry, anyone can call themselves a coach, and many people do, when in fact the services that they offer are not coaching. So there's no wonder that prospects might come to you with the intention of purchasing a done-for-you package. It's your responsibility to educate them on what coaching is and make sure you set clear expectations from the beginning and add them to the contract as well. One easy way to spot this red flag is when the prospect starts asking for guarantees and is looking for a quick solution or an easy win, or when they ask the wrong questions. They might say something like, "If I work with you, can you guarantee that I'll achieve XYZ? And when will that happen? Also, what's your refund policy?" Different clients have different results, even if they follow the same program or strategy. So asking for guarantees and not having enough patience to get to where they want to be shows a lack of commitment and is a sign that they are not taking ownership and accountability for their results. Instead, they rely on you to make them successful. You want to distance yourself from people who have these expectations. They are impatient, over-dependent on you, and they have a skewed understanding of what coaching is and how it works. Speaking of taking responsibility for their results, the second sign to be aware of is that they're not open to criticism. Not only are they perfect, but their past lack of success or mistakes are other people's fault, not theirs. These people find excuses for everything. If they start blaming and talking badly about their previous coaches, that's a huge red flag. And fair enough, maybe they worked with some bad coaches in the past, but it's distasteful to badmouth other people, and doing so says something about a person's character. I personally don't want to work with someone who acts like that, and I tell them that we are not a good fit for each other. Which is true. They're not my type. The next sign of a bad client is a pet peeve of mine. I absolutely hate it, and I've said no to prospects in the past even before I met them because of this. And that is being disrespectful of my time. If someone shows up late for our call or reschedules at the last minute, or worse, they don't show up at all unless they have a very good excuse, I'm likely to refuse taking them on as a client. It shows lack of respect and lack of commitment. Another thing that shows lack of commitment is if I ask them to fill in a form or a questionnaire before our call and they haven't done it because they didn't have time. If they didn't have time to fill in a form, they will for sure not have time to do the work required to get results. At the other side of the spectrum are those prospects who don't even wait for our call and bombard me with emails and messages asking for specific feedback before we even meet. This is also an abuse of my time, and if they act like this before they're a client, I can only imagine what they'll be like once they start paying me. Again, you need to make it very clear in the contract and verbally what your involvement is, and take notice and action when someone is overstepping those boundaries. If you're enjoying the video so far, give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing. It really helps to support the channel, and I thank you in advance if you do. The next red flag is a bad attitude and lack of self-awareness around that attitude. I have had conversations with prospects who believed that by spending money on something, they've done their part and now it was my turn. They had this "what can you do for me" attitude and an arrogant way of approaching the conversation because they were the ones paying the money. Well, coincidentally, my work is about money, so I know that an attitude like that is very difficult to change. I find that entitlement attitude repelling, and I don't take on clients who lack humility or self-awareness. A prospect who believes their involvement doesn't go beyond paying a coach is someone who doesn't understand how coaching works and what is expected of them as a client in order to get results. The next red flag is haggling on price, comparing your services to those of your competition, or asking for a discount. What I find is that these people are either bargain hunters trying to squeeze some value out of you in a free session and who were never going to become a client, or people who are not yet ready to commit to coaching, but they're fishing around to see what their options are. It's not worth negotiating with them, and I usually tell them that I invite them to come back to me when the time is ready and they can commit. Don't be tempted to offer a discount without a proper reason. What you'll find is that they will probably say no anyway. If you're a new coach, be careful of not letting a conversation with a person like this knock down your confidence, especially if you reduced your price and they still didn't want to work with you. If someone asks for a discount or they say they can't afford your services, that doesn't mean you are charging too much and should therefore lower your prices. That's perhaps the subject of a different conversation, but I personally politely say no when they ask for a discount, being certain that in 99% of cases, they wouldn't have become a client anyway. Another red flag is when the prospect is reluctant to share details about themselves. I once had a conversation where the other person kept changing the subject and asking me questions about my work and how I structure my coaching programs. It turns out they wanted to become a financial coach themselves, and they thought it would be a good idea to jump on a call with me and pick my brain and observe how I conduct a discovery call. Now, I'm okay to have conversations with fellow coaches and professionals, and I help people start their coaching businesses. That's what I do. But I appreciate knowing what to expect from a conversation and not be taken for a fool. So this wasn't a bad client because they were never going to become a client, but something like this can happen. So I thought I would bring it to your attention. The next point I want to make is not something that you'll be able to observe externally, but rather within yourself. Listen to your intuition. If a prospect is giving you a bad vibe, you don't seem to click with them, or you can't wait for the call to be finished, then don't take them on. Sometimes these red flags are not obvious, but there's something within us, a gut feeling that tells us not to go ahead. Listen to that feeling and be true to yourself. Avoiding bad clients is not something we'll be able to do 100% of the time, but these red flags are a good indication of a potentially difficult client. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, check out the other two that are suggested on the screen right now. That's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!